Hi everyone. Oh crap. N.E.R.D Synth here, the internet's busiest music nerd. Also still N.E.R.D Shelf Tano here. Still new shelf, N.E.R.D Shelf Tano. Literally, who care? It's shelf. It's shelf. Who care? I'll tell you who care. Me care. Okay? And it's time for a review of the new N.E.R.D record, No One Ever Really Dies. N.E.R.D, or N.E.R.D, or No One Ever Really Dies, is a music trio hailing from California. They are back with their first record in 7 years. It's kind of easy to see why things have been put on hiatus, considering the group's flagship member, Pharrell Williams, has been really busy with collaborations and solo records and singing competitions. This has been a gigantic decade for Pharrell thus far. So now it seems like he's kind of coming back to N.E.R.D, doing a victory lap with a group that kind of helped put him on the map. And this was easily one of my most anticipated albums of 2017, considering how hot I was on the lead singles to this thing, Lemon featuring Rihanna and 1000 featuring Future. And it's actually spectacular to hear Shay, Chad, and Pharrell once again back at it, creating these very catchy, snappy fusions of pop, soul, rock, and hip-hop. For the most part, N.E.R.D succeeds in bringing back the carefree but methodically put together, the fun but incredibly experimental vibe that made the group so interesting in the first place. In fact, it's like it's never even really left. The biggest difference, though, between this record and previous N.E.R.D releases is most likely this huge influx of trendy rappers and singers. N.E.R.D in the past, not really a feature-heavy group, but all of a sudden now they are. But that's kind of the case for everybody now. Everybody's got features, just features out the wazoo. And a lot of them are actually pretty great and add quite a bit of character and personality to the track list. Maybe with a few exceptions though. I mean, Ed Sheeran's boyish vocal harmonies on the closing track here feel more like a footnote than a feature. Wale's appearance at the end of Walla kind of takes the track in unnecessary territory. Like, it could have easily ended before that whole beat switch started and it would have been a completely fine track. The only feature on this thing I would say that is more boring than this is MIA taking up the last leg of the song Kites. Andre 3000's verse on the record is perfectly fine. I just think it comes in really late, and as far as production goes, the song he features on is one of the messier and more unkempt and least pleasant that I've heard in the bunch. And the second Kendrick Lamar feature on this thing is obviously inferior to the first one, which was really the only one we needed. Still though, I love the attitude of this record. I love the instrumental direction Pharrell and company took this album in. N.E.R.D once again brings a very familiar blend of stylistic influences, but this time around things are sounding a little more aggressive, slightly punkier, which fits pretty well with the lyrics generally on this project, sounding a little more political and socially aware than usual. But still, even while making politically charged statements with their music, N.E.R.D manages to maintain this zany, very upbeat attitude that comes off very playful. It's like I'm hearing elements of hardcore and even like the music of Devo playing a much larger influence in the group's music overall. Now, of course, this is an N.E.R.D record. It's a Pharrell record, so the production is one of the biggest selling points of this thing, and generally, it's incredible. The grooves on this thing are here in full force. The sounds are crafted to have this consistently gummy, colorful, bouncy, round, rubbery, and quirky sound. On the song Lemon, I love the twittering trap hi-hats, the very round, resonant bass, the cute, plinky little percussive melodies playing away in the background. The beat switch from Pharrell's section of the track to Rihanna's is pretty fantastic. It goes from like this kind of driving alternative dance sound to this very laid-back, head-bobbing hip-hop. You have more driving kick drums on the song Deep Down Body Thirst, and even though the percussion is very tense on this thing generally, the beats are matched with these very glamorous keys, some crunchy guitar chords, and fluttering picked bass lines. It's like I'm listening to a punked out version of a very smooth, sleek, modern soul sound, which works out pretty well a lot of the time with Pharrell's boyish, shouty vocals, which come off even more appropriate on the very aggressive and very in-your-face 1000. 1000! Polish is working! This track is just this exciting sensory overload for me, with its odd sound effect samples and its chiming synths, and the booming breakdown that introduces the Future feature is fantastic. I just love that beat switch. I love that tempo change, whatever you want to call it, just that It's like I've been shifted into another dimension. It's orgasmic. I feel like I'm listening to what is the essential blurring of all lines between all genres as every sound kind of coalesces into one style, one genre, and this is it. Cyber rap punks living in a dystopian future. Ah! There are a few moments though on this record where the cutting edge gets slightly obnoxious. Like the repeatedly triggered samples can get pretty grating and redundant during moments of voila. The very loud robotic vocal refrains on that track are really enough already. And again, more constantly triggered vocal samples on the song Rollin' 'Em Sevens. It's a lot. I kind of feel the same way about the song Kites too. Also on this track, it's like the driving, somewhat punky beats that kicked the record off and sounded super fresh and super different, not only for N.E.R.D, but just for popular music in general. They get kind of formulaic by this point. Like you've heard them executed time and time again on numerous tracks before, and it's just like, okay, you're doing it. And it's kind of unfortunate because, truth be told, N.E.R.D is one of the most versatile music groups out there. I know they have more up their sleeve than this, but it's kind of like they restricted themselves a little bit to this sound and this vibe and this style to get a bit more of a uniform style for this entire record, but maybe a little bit too uniform. I think the record could have used maybe a couple more supremely freaky or weird cuts like Secret Life of Tigers. I love the descending guitar line on that track, such a catchy, captivating moment. And also the very bouncy and catchy and odd cut ESP. You got energy, but you ain't gonna use it. A track that's this unexpected, I don't know, reaching your full potential anthem with a few preachy lyrics here and there. And I cannot finish a review of this album without mentioning the beautiful, epic, and lengthy Lightning Fire Magic Prayer. This thing is equal parts Odyssey, futuristic, and psychedelic. It's cybernetic, and yet it's also pretty soulful. I love the very lush, clean, glistening synth layers, which are juxtaposed against these somewhat rough, somewhat gritty, very punchy beats. I love the way this instrumental eventually transitions into this sound bed of water samples, head-bobbing beats, ascending synth arpeggios. It's really worth the 7-minute runtime, pays off with a nice climax at the end. Pharrell's vocal performance here is one of the prettiest and most compelling on the entire thing. The closing reggae number, again featuring Ed Sheeran on this thing, is a little rough around the edges, seems a bit too casual. The entire cut seems almost like a goofy afterthought. Still though, the whole sound palette and the intricacies of the production are so nice it almost makes up for it. I do like this album quite a bit. It's a little inconsistent. It's also a bit one-dimensional at points. However, I feel like this record is a tribute to Pharrell as a creative force. Because with this record, he's taken some major musical risks, he's gone totally out there into the weeds, while simultaneously succeeding in the highest echelons of mainstream music. The production on this thing is some of the freshest of 2017, the socially aware lyrics are a nice change of pace when they're on point. A lot of them come off more like slogans than they are salient points, however, they are really catchy. And even when Pharrell on this record isn't trying to make some grand statement, there's some kind of freewheeling absurdity to his bars that still wins me over. Despite its handful of flaws, this is still easily one of N.E.R.D's most fun albums, and probably the best record they've come out with since Fly or Die, like over 10 years or so ago. Its best moments are pretty electrifying, pretty inventive, and I could see a lot of tracks on this thing being comebacks for me. I'm feeling a strong 7 to a light 8 on this thing. Transition, have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like, please subscribe, and please don't cry. Just leave a thoughtful comment down in the comments if you're feeling thoughtful, if you're feeling full of thoughts. N.E.R.D, No One Ever Really Dies. Over here next to my head is another review you can check out. Pharrell, his Girls record, throw that in there, and also a link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, forever.